Welcome back to the WatchTower Film Podcast, the film review podcast on the TowerCast Network.
Happy New Year.
By cinema lovers, for cinema lovers. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Wow. You guys remember how messed up Castro was at my party?
Bro, we were just talking about this.
Hold on.
About this.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
I was also messed up at the party. That's why I forgot.
Yeah.
There's lights.
We were talking about doing like this champagne bit. We just didn't have time. We were hauling ass to get this thing recorded.
Exactly.
Because we're so damn
Hungover.
hungover.
Yeah.
What a party, man.
Dude, remember that lion?
I really got it.
Dude, my house caught fire. It was crazy.
It was nuts.
That was my house. That's how drunk you were. No, yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We're here to talk to you about more cinema this year. And, you know, we wanted to kick off January with something a little offbeat.
Oh, yeah.
But for people, and there's a huge kind of crowd in the cinephiles camp who love documentaries especially. And that's what they dedicate their lives to as filmmakers who focus on documentaries.
Yeah.
And we're doing a full-on documentary month this month for January. What?
What's a documentary?
What's a documentary, Mr. Della O?
Wow.
I don't know.
I like how that's an easy way to like get rid of you having to explain what a documentary is.
No, it's non-narrative storytelling. That's it.
Yeah. So is Jersey Shore a documentary?
Unfortunately, yes.
No, it's
Tex-Mex.
unscripted work.
So is non.
I know that's reality.
Okay, I guess
bullshit.
certain
No,
non-narratives
yeah,
can
yeah.
be scripted.
Yeah.
But so
No.
what do you mean? Jersey Shore scripted?
No,
That's all full of
non-scripted
disease,
doesn't
bro.
refer
Come on.
to it being documentary. Non-scripted just means that though there's a story and because there are writers on like reality TV,
Right.
it's just that
Like Kim
they
Kardashian.
don't have a set script that they need to perform on like the stage.
Sure.
Yeah, but compared to documentary work, there's no writing whatsoever. The only writing really happens after they've shot everything to form a narrative that we'll
In the
watch
editing.
through. But they're like when we talk about documentaries, and I think most people think of like History Channel dad documentaries, where it's like back in the
Yeah.
War of 1812.
And by the way,
Yeah.
like I don't try to get out of explaining it. I just try to share the screen time, if you will. I'm trying
Yeah.
to get you guys in the conversation.
What was the whole thing like?
Speaking of you guys, joining me, Mr. Michael Willow, giving us a cinematography perspective this
Happy
year.
New Year! A lot more cinematography to come. Watch out.
Cinematography.
I like that.
We haven't
I
heard
actually
that
like
one. We've
that.
heard Cinnamon, or what was it? Cinematography. We got Mr. John Ericasser giving us a acting perspective, and he's well in his right, a filmmaker as well, writer, and amongst other things.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Coming into the new year, it's got to be known. Let it be known. Let it be said.
New Year, new you.
This documentary, which we have not named, actually, little bolt right under me.
Right after Mr. Austin Young, making sure we're sounding good on the ones and twos is out there,
Make sure
giving
to
us
like and subscribe.
also an editing perspective amongst producing, amongst other things.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Make sure to like and
Hit the
subscribe.
little bell at the bottom. What do all the YouTubers say?
I don't know.
Make sure hit like and subscribe
Don't
and
forget to-
smash that reminder button or
Click the little bell or whatever.
oh yeah,
King, and then there's like a king,
Yeah.
you know?
Bing. Oh
Put
god.
the Taco Bell sound just to fuck with people, you know? Just
Bong,
Yeah,
bong.
come on guys, live
And
And then
Moss.
we get sued by Taco Bell.
Yeah.
No, okay,
Put them in the map.
We're
Live
back.
Tower.
We're back after New Year. We're gonna have hopefully, another setup in the studio
Oh, yeah.
for next episode. So stay tuned for that. Should be a lot of fun.
And if it's audio, nothing's going to change.
Correct,
But
unless
visually,
you hear the
more
fabric
appealing.
of the couch or something. I don't
And
know.
you guys
you
maybe
spoiled
stop hitting the table.
Oh yeah, no more
Here.
a cardinal sin of
I know.
podcasting.
I feel bad for our audio listeners sometimes.
Yeah, me.
You know what? Nobody's complained, Austin.
I have.
And we have a lot of audio listeners.
I have
and I'm not
complained.
one of them. I watched the video like a man.
love the audio.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it
because
gets
it's like
annoying.
perfect on the drive, you know.
I watch it on the drive.
Yeah, me
But
too.
you know me.
I like to see it.
Yeah.
You'd like to see it on the drive?
Put it on my
Drive.
dashboard and drive,
I
you
got
know?
a tablet on mine.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, Teslas screens are this big now. So like,
You're the guys
Not
who
that I
like
have a
to hit
Tesla.
my hybrid car, right?
yeah, that's
If you're
great.
an officer watching this, he drives a white Chevy truck.
Yeah, which is why my car's messing up for some reason, man. It's doing this weird thing on the acceleration. I need to
Oh
check it
no,
out.
the battery was dead, right?
That was on my truck.
Oh,
On my truck.
It's an 86 Honda.
How dare you?
dare
you?
We're here to talk about. Let me get the director's name right. His name is Chris Kenneally. Chris Kenneally? Let's hope I'm
Christopher.
pronouncing-
Chris Kenneally.
Chris Kenneally. We're talking about Side by Side. This was my pick this go round. I love this documentary. I constantly tell people this is my favorite documentary of all time. Amongst the other choice I have this month that we're going to talk about, which we'll get there. But the slug for this thing is, can film survive our digital future? This documentary tackles kind of the argument, the
there's
100
no argument.
let's call it the 50-year argument of
True.
film and digital, and amongst especially filmmakers and consumers. If you consume film, you may not realize this. If you're kind of a general audience member, as my wife likes to say, you may not realize that you're consuming film very differently than you consumed it 10 years ago. Or even 5 years ago. The landscape of watching a film in theaters versus streaming versus all of that is how you consume film.
I remember we were talking to Sanchez about, like, he was saying how dollar movies used to have like film projectors, and you would always go, and then they would always be on film. But then once like the digital revolution happened, where it was like, we have digital screens now. Now it's like you don't find places that do like film projection at all, unless you're going to like a specialty theater or something like that. So,
or like, I think the only ones that I know of in El Paso that have a film projector is still Alamo, and even then it's a 35 millimeter film projector. Not a 70 millimeter film projector, which I have a cool story about, which we'll talk about later.
Because I still don't understand why you guys haven't gotten on the boat and left that behind.
Well, okay, that's what's great about film.
Alamo?
That's my thing. That's my thing
because
about
they got beer and it's cold.
That's my thing about film. You guys know that typically what ends up changing my score at the end of a film is that it creates this discussion.
Yeah.
This, you can argue back and forth about which side is right and wrong and all of the above. But that's what this film tackles. We've been at the top of the kind of photochemical process for 20 plus years now, and we still love that form as opposed to hopping onto digital and kind of bettering that. So that's kind of the argument. But it shows you. I like to think of this, if you guys haven't read Sidney Lumet's book Making Movies. I think it's one of the 5 kind of pantheons for filmmakers to read that you should read. It's like that one, Rebel Without a Crew, the Director's Handbook, like shit like that. I think filmmakers should read. And Sidney Lumet, what's great about his book Making Movies is it puts it in layman's terms. Anybody who's never been a filmmaker, who just has seen a film, puts it in layman's terms. This is a camera, and this is what it does. And a cinematographer's job is this. And it puts them in layman's terms for people to really get it, even if you're not a filmmaker. This film kind of does that. It explains everything from, like, photons going into the celluloid kind of frames and
There's a little history.
everything, everything. So I love that about this documentary. It puts it in layman's terms on how the technology of film works, period.
Yeah.
And how some directors just got stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you about that, like...
Ratings.
Okay,
Ratings.
It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, this is a weird one, right? We've never done a documentary, I don't think.
We can rate it for cinematography, right?
No, we just rate it, I think, as a film.
As a film, right?
I don't think there's a documentary rating. I don't think so. I'm going to push the envelope and say that there's some documentaries that the narrative of the non-narrative film, the narrative of the documentary for me paints a story.
Yeah.
I've seen more than a few documentaries, more than, that.
And I'll get a little controversial. I think Netflix has perfected that documentary style.
You think so?
I love it.
So?
That's why I got into it.
I think Apple's killing the game right now, man. Apple
with which one?
I pitched you guys a documentary.
The spy
Pigeon.
one.
Yeah, the Pigeon.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you had seen it.
No,
I had told him that I
told
think
me that
he
I
would
like
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, you were going to say something.
Netflix.
I love movies. No,
one on Netflix or Apple.
No, I think it's really weird to kind of rate these because the reason we separate the genres is because there's tropes, right? There's like with a comedy, right? There's certain things that have to happen in the movie so it can be a good comedy. Or like in what do we do? Christmas films, right? Like if it doesn't have the sad beat and then the holidays saving everybody at the end, then it's a bad Christmas film. It could have just been any film. But
that's
like
weird thing, right?
With documentaries, the reason we're not doing that, the reason it's just film is because historically documentary filmmaking was just filmmaking for a while. That was just kind of like how film was born.
Think about the Lumiere brothers. The Lumiere brothers. It was really this man who made it, who turned it into narrative, Georges Méliès. But Méliès, a guy in New Orleans, a Uber driver.
What?
Corrected me. A French Uber driver.
Oh, really?
Corrected me.
Yeah,
he was a cinephile. He must have been in the 60s. This is just a great film story, so I'll tell it.
Yeah.
But he must have been in the 60s, and he gave me a ride, and we talked, and he said he had been in New Orleans for 50 odd years. And he was telling me that like.
Say what your
He's like, well, what do you like to do around here? Like, what's a good thing? Oh, well, this and that. And I love film. Oh, yeah, I love film too. And he started telling me about these great kind of movie houses in New Orleans and like single screen theaters. And we're talking about all that. And we started talking about French cinema. And I tell him that, I tell you guys to watch like the Three Colors trilogy. I tell my friends to watch more French cinema and the French New Wave. And I was like, what's it like on your end? Kind of like, I was like, I showed him, I was like, I don't know if you know who this is, but I was like Georges Méliès, and he looks at the tattoo. He's like, Méliès.
Yeah, you don't use the hard E.
Yeah,
Méliès.
You use a hard S. Méliès, Georges Méliès. Anyways,
anyway,
Méliès kind of shifted it into more feature film narrative storytelling, whereas things like the Lumiere brothers, people walking out of the factory, the train arriving to the station, the snowball fight, which I saw somebody posted. I think Criterion posted it for Christmas, like the kids, with the snowball fight.
No, it's
it's
just a very like old depiction of people having a snowball fight, just like in a public square.
It's the Lumiere brothers.
Oh, and then it wasn't Edison, right? The one who would do like the little like Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
it was
the one that stole.
Yeah.
What
And
Nickelodeon's
bootlegged.
the ones
you would like throw a nickel in a box and you'd like look at it and it would project like it was seen as like a dirty art form because it was like people like kissing or like a girl doing like a little dance and all that kind of stuff, and that's all it was. But yeah, birth of cinema. That's kind of what it was. Yeah. But there's not tropes. Like there's not a documentary needs to have these elements to be considered a documentary. The only thing it needs to have is that it needs to be filming what we think is unfiltered life, which is a bigger conversation we could have later on.
Okay, hold on. Do you guys say that a documentary has to be entertaining or educational? Or both of them?
No.
Everything?
Neither, none of the above.
So what it has to be?
Or all of the above.
That's the thing.
That's what I'm saying.
None of the above or all of the above.
What do you mean none of the above then? Let's start with that.
Well, because a documentary could just be a portrait of life, right? A depiction that...
Well, back then, right?
I got a way to break it up. I think, like, if you look at a picture, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's a scary picture. There's elements in there that make it a scary picture. Yeah. So with that, you'll say like, oh, this is a good scary picture or a bad scary picture. Compare that to like if somebody's painting with oils or painting with like acrylics, like two different types.
Okay,
I feel like documentaries like that, like it's still a painting, but it's just a different way to make the painting.
I'll take it a step further, not just the making it, but the consuming of it. That's what I love about cinema, Gus, was that depending on what stage of life you're in consuming this thing, you might get scary vibes, or you might get entertaining vibes, or you might just be looking for something good to learn from. Or like, I think it's about the audience kind of perceiving it their own way. So
I don't think you'll like my rating.
What?
You're not gonna like the rating.
I'm not gonna like your rating.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's get us. How are you judging it then?
I go first just so that way you guys can correct me?
Sure.
Like, okay, here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think if a documentary is done well, it shouldn't be just like, oh, that was good for a documentary. It should be a good film, right?
That's a good point. It's
so
a really
like,
good point.
Yeah, like if you watch it, that should be on your list of like...
That changes my whole rating.
No,
Dear
but it
God.
should just be a good film.
Yeah.
So I think bad documentaries are the ones that we've seen that just lean into it being ultra educational, and then there's this really, it's just so bland. It's like, sure, it's a historical recounting of events, but you don't feel like you really gained anything. You don't feel like you were on a roller coaster. Like the reason people are so into like true crimes podcasts.
You didn't feel like you were on a roller coaster.
No, but here's
but
I'm explaining.
Yeah,
I'm explaining on like a larger scale.
Yeah.
Meaning like the reason I think people are so hooked on like true crime podcasts is because
That's what I'm comparing.
The entertainment, what it makes you feel.
They take something that's factually that happened, but they know how to like give certain parts of the interview at certain times, other parts at other times, so that way you're along for the journey. And then when the discovery happens, you feel like you were there.
You know what?
Like,
I think a lot of people don't realize.
Entertainment has to be a little bit in there.
I think a lot of people don't realize, though, a general kind of consumer will not realize that the art of spin exists everywhere, not just in news and media. It exists in storytelling. The storyteller will come up with a way to spin it to their liking of how they want to tell the story. A true crime documentary, or any film could be told a million different ways. The same story could be told a million different ways. So the art of spin, that's kind of the closest term I could relate it to, is like on documentaries, it could be super educational, super informal, super educational or super informative.
Informative,
or it could be this art piece.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
like very like.
If we
like,
were to dive into more like French New Wave
with
stuff.
the fly on the wall, is that like?
Yeah,
Cinema Verite.
Yeah.
Cinema Verite thing, or like what's the one? Paris is Burning. You know, You guys remember Paris is Burning?
Yeah, a
we
little
saw
bit.
it in film school. We saw it in cons class. About the trans people who are like
yeah.
taking over the club and that whole thing.
Oh,
Paris is Burning.
God, that was great.
Again,
But,
it could be
okay.
this art piece,
Now-
or it could be this kind of, or it
Right
could be
before
both.
I give the
could be
rating,
both.
so we can keep moving forward.
Yeah.
The first thing, it has to be entertaining. It has to be something that captivates you, where you're in it.
But we're on
And the
agreement.
sec-
We're just gonna judge this as a film.
As a film.
Not documentary rating. Film
Yeah,
rating.
that's gonna
Just
be
the
hard.
rating.
But
right.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, let's
and
see,
then
let's see.
number 2 is that it had to have enough there to make me care about the topic.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing
Movie
to
or
documentary cinema, and that's what we're also taught in
Some of the ones that you
call to
guys are
action.
pointing out, I went super on the nose for my pick for this because, and I wanted to kick it off that way because we're going to talk about documentary cinema. So I wanted to make a kind of straight on the nose film, palatable film. Whereas something like the taxidermy one, I don't know if you're still going to go with that after today, after the discussion we had today, or the two that you're kind of juggling with, or the sports doc, like they're different forms of documentary and storytelling, and that's what I kind of love about us tackling this. Whereas I went super almost Discovery Channel-ish thing
Yeah.
to tell us about the topic we're talking about.
No,
You know,
and
like it's kind of the
That's where I feel like my rating's kind of rough. Like, okay,
Yeah.
right now, as it sits in
But my
the
point with
scale-
that is that I know nothing about the topics you guys
Yeah.
are presenting.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you don't have to. You
Yeah.
genuinely don't have to with a film. I bring this all the time, even on the narrative front. Scorsese knew nothing about boxing, could care less about boxing, and made arguably the best boxing film
That
in
is very,
cinematic
very
history.
true.
Nope. Whatever.
Hey,
Rocky.
Yeah.
Silence. Anyway.
But my point is, you don't need to know.
Yeah.
And even the storyteller doesn't need to know. You need to care about the topic.
Yeah.
I disagree, man. What do you mean? You don't think like he cared a little bit once you started?
Look, man, I've made a few documentaries, and my best one, quite literally my most viewed film of all of my filmography, with like I don't know 50,000 views or some shit, wherever it stands out now, probably more than that.
Raging Bull?
No, that I've made.
Oh.
I knew nothing about this man and was introduced to. Well, kind of, sort of. I knew his music a little bit and was introduced
you're
to him.
talking about, yeah.
And it's still like as a filmmaker, I envy guys like the Spielbergs and the Scorseses who like can do both. Ron Howard makes great documentaries. I want to make more documentaries. It's fucking
really?
awesome to make documentaries. It's great, but you could spend 10 years making one documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's recording footage, whether it's reenactments, whether it's going through all the archival footage, which is what takes the most amount of time, is the archival process.
Traveling and all that.
Traveling, yeah. You could take 10 years making one doc.
Yeah.
That's exciting to me, and at the same time, like, shit, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't take 10 years
'Cause-
to make this one story where I can make 10 stories. In
Yeah.
that
But I
amount
think
of
for
time.
like
me too.
documentary filmmakers, I think it's definitely a lifestyle thing.
It's a discipline.
Yeah,
It's a discipline.
because compared to us, where we can like write a story and then you know like film it and shoot it and all that kind of stuff and get the practicals. With them, life has to kind of happen
Honestly.
correctly, and then if it does, then they'll be like, "Oh, we have enough information."
Which
Let's
is
make it.
why you can do both, right? But which is if I were to make more documentaries, I plan to. I think it's amazing. I think it's this unique theme, puzzle piece thing that's very unique to documentary storytelling. There's a plethora of amazing documentary storytellers that I could never hold a candle to as a storyteller. But what I've noticed my heroes do is get these almost bite-sized chunks of storytelling. Guys like Peter Jackson, Scorsese, they'll make music documentaries, or they'll make a documentary about the Beatles, or about George Harrison, or about the Rolling Stones. And I always forget her name, Anne Leibovitz. I think Scorsese's made a couple documentaries on her. They're things that already happened.
Yeah.
They're lives that were already lived that they can kind of generate an ending to, as opposed to something that's ongoing that you may never know, or there may be an open-ended ending. You know, that's where 10 years of your life go by. But if you're making something that this person died on this year, then the fun is I know the ending. How can I make this entertaining to where people have made thousands of Elvis documentaries,
Well,
for
but,
instance. And everybody knows he died, he had a heart attack, but how do I make this? How do I put the spin on it
Little
to make
fact
this
that people
entertaining?
didn't know, that's how you start sprinkling little.
That's the last thing I'll say before
Yeah.
we get into ratings. But there's just ways to go about it. The voodoo of documentary storytelling is pretty amazing.
And I like how they used that. Did you use that because of the film Voodoo?
Yeah,
yeah,
they
they
use it
use-
for cinematography, but like for documentary,
That
even
is the
storytelling.
scariest thing ever. But go for it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
At the moment, I was thinking really hard about it. I love the subject matter.
Obviously.
Same.
So the subject matter is something I'll hold dear, and I'll same as you. I want to show this to as many people as possible who care about film because it shows what kind of era we live in and the mentality we should have, and what we should really think about the process and what we're making. Because we're making something that we hope exists forever in all of our films.
Yeah.
And what we're battling every day.
I had this tradition. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I've been
a
trying to
shot.
be. No, I've been getting better. I didn't interrupt him. I let him finish his thought, and then I interjected with something. I haven't interrupted him yet. I had this tradition after we finished Depth of Field, our first feature, where I gifted this documentary to Austin as my editor, and Daniel, who was technically a co-editor, and Eric, who was my DP. I think I gave it to you guys after we wrapped, right? Just like a hey, great job type of thing, but moving forward, like check this out. This will inform your kind of storytelling broadness. And I kind of had that tradition in my head. I was like, I'm going to give this to collaborators.
Yeah.
And I never did. And I really would like to. This thing for me still like tells.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I
12
agree.
years old and it still tells a story to a certain extent.
It
you know,
felt
so-
12 years old, but
Did it really to you?
but the message still got through.
I thought it was so relevant. I thought it was even more relevant now.
I see that just because we're talking about cameras and it just looks like a documentary.
yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, go for it.
Rating.
Only judging it on the element of it being a standalone film, and entertainment, call to action. I'll say
definitely a call to action. Right.
I'll say like a 7.
Wow. Okay.
That's what,
Yeah.
that's what I thought I heard too.
Yeah.
Before you said anything.
Yeah, no, I think it's like a 7.
You heard a sound?
Only because it is in no way. It doesn't have any bad element to it.
Totally-
I feel like the call to action could be made stronger.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the element of like storytelling, but like in documentary, our class, they taught us that there's beats. You need to kind of carry your audience through emotions, right?
Yeah.
You need to take them through the highs, and the highs were like, whoa, we just made this digital thing. And then it takes us through the lows, like, yeah, but everybody knew it was kind of sucky and it's not really going to be taken seriously. And then it's like, whoa, but people are taking it seriously. It's
Well,
like,
you have to directors that were born with
weird.
it.
It's a weird. Okay.
you have to go through the waves because that
Yeah.
keeps you entertained.
Let me
True.
interject there a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a weird double-edged sword, man.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because if the director, for instance, I think if Scorsese would have directed this as a documentary, it would have told a different story. It would have been more impactful.
It would have had a
Dude,
different
that's
texture.
just
It would have had
the
a-
nicest way to critique.
No, but it would have. No, my point with that is that it would have had a bigger punch. The stakes would have been raised higher, as he's saying. Like
Yeah.
the stakes should have been: film is dying. Are you gonna be okay with that, or are you gonna?
I'll give you credit because
you know what
I didn't know he did documentaries. He said that he did a
Oh
couple.
no, he did. He's done
So, yeah,
amazing,
he knows what he's
Oscar award-winning documentaries, man.
So-
Like the George Harrison thing for HBO. But my point with that is like, it's a weird double-edged sword because we want it to be this impactful art piece, but then you're just making a film for filmmakers. This can be viewed by anybody.
No.
I think so. Yes, I think it's explaining the science at its bare bones. It's in layman's terms.
I do think you need some sort of interest in the world.
You have to have some type of
I
interest.
feel
just to,
like-
I don't
just
think
to-
I
just
don't
to-
think I can show my parents this
just to care
documentary and
about
they would
why
enjoy
that
it.
camera changed. You
Yeah.
know.
I don't. What I'm not saying your parents or any kind of
You
general
have to have some
consumer would
type of-
have interest in seeing it. I'm saying it if they did happen to see it, or if you happen to screen it for somebody who's not a filmmaker. I think it's palatable enough at its foundation.
No.
No,
I think it's just.
Is
it's
it that
good- it's a
basic
good
to me
documentary
that,
for
like,
us.
I think it's super basic.
'Cause
we're
we can trace back
we're
to-
so connected to it.
Exactly.
And I feel
that's
like
definitely true.
I
That's
feel
definitely
like
true.
if somebody
Oh, this is the comparison I'll give. This is the comparison I'll give.
Can we
to
all
me,
give number-
this we all saw this in film school, or at the very least, I think I screened it for Austin at some point. Well, I know the three of us saw it in film school.
Yeah.
Imagine screening to your parents this documentary over the story of film and Odyssey, the 8-part thing
Yeah.
about the history of film.
yeah.
That is not palatable. That is like
No, but
piece by piece the history of film with
You
the
know what
Irish
kinda
accent
sucks?
and super dramatic, and
Nah,
it's an
yeah,
art
okay,
piece kind of.
you know what sucks? There's
This one
films
was a little
like
bit more.
It's palatable, I
There-
think.
okay,
I
yeah.
think.
Well, it's because there's
sure.
films like there's the Making Waves, which is similar to
sound
this,
one.
but it's about sound, and that one takes you into the world like this one does with the conversion between celluloid and digital. But that one is just talking about
Right.
what does sound mean and why is it so important. And it really does take you from the baby steps of somebody just watching a movie and being like, okay, well, like, I mean, I can see why, yeah, there's all these different
Vibrations.
elements, but they're like, okay, now let's like fuck up the sound and like see if you can still enjoy
Yeah.
it. And it's like, oh wow, you can. And then it talks about that whole world and it brings you into something
Yeah.
where before maybe you didn't care and now you do. This
I'm not
one-
disagreeing with you guys, by the
Yeah.
way. I think it's a very keen topic.
Yeah.
It is.
This
It's
one-
not. I mean, what document? Oh, like the whale one that everybody saw.
The whale?
Blackwater, Blackfish. What was it called?
Oh yeah.
That
yeah.
was big for a year.
Oh, I mean,
the whales.
Oh, like the comedian that talks about there was pop music Michael Jackson, there was documentary Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Like that one
too.
changes people's lives.
That's a weird, funky thing,
But
though, right?
anyway, that 7. Let's go around
Let's
so
go.
we can get everybody's take in, and then we'll
Awesome,
start.
man. You've seen it before, right? You saw it again?
And by the way, your rating, as you guys know, this doesn't have to be. It's catered to you.
Yeah.
Right?
I could be wrong.
Yeah, just
I haven't.
Just don't hit
No,
me.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Don't kill my mic.
So no new beanie for the new year?
I thought it was. It looks bigger. Just like
It looks orangier.
By the
it's
way,
just the daytime.
it's just his hair.
it shrinks when it gets cold.
Does
By
it
the way,
shrivel
how many
up?
stops do we get? Because I'm only seeing light through this window.
It shrinks.
How many stops are we getting? We're getting 10 stops?
That's
That's all we have?
But look at us. That's all that matters. We are perfectly exposed. See, this is the problem. You're just looking at your hair now that's on digital.
Great. I love that line in the documentary.
As a doc, I'd give it a solid 7.
You're at the same.
Yeah, just because.
As a doc?
Yeah, as a doc. Because I do think that it's a very niche doc that I don't think is very palatable for people that aren't in this world.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
If you are,
But that's not the basis of our rating, is it? Is it
Yeah.
palatable enough for people?
no. But I've seen docs that.
Okay, yeah,
have
because mine's going to be for me.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. For me,
No, yeah.
for you, that's
No.
why I said like your rating has to be catered
But
for you.
I
and your
feel like
tastes.
for Dave. No,
Well,
because
I know that's why.
we've
That's why I
also
didn't
talked
argue with
about,
you on
like,
yours because
cinema.
your tastes,
Yeah.
for like
Cinema.
artsy, experimental docs and stuff like that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
It's
I get
never
that.
been about taste. It's always been about like my objective rating towards like a film. Like I've never just like rated something like.
Well, you're right. You're right. To a certain extent, you're right. It can't just be a 10 because it's your favorite. It has to be okay. You're right.
No,
You're
but
right.
that's why we changed it up.
When did we change it up?
Where it was like for cinema history, like for the whole.
That's
and
what's
then
hard
your,
about
and then your
documentary
personal
month.
opinion on.
That's a good point. Okay, a 7.
well,
a 7.
Personal
What-
opinion, I love it. Like this, like I said, I want to show it to everybody, but like as a objective rating of
Sure,
how it sits
sure, sure.
on the pantheon.
No, it's true. It's true.
yeah.
I've seen 10
Is this in
documentaries
Sight and
better than
Sound
this.
or is Man with a Movie Camera
Is this what?
on the Sight and Sound poll, or is
Oh,
like
no,
Man with
absolutely
a
not.
Movie Camera? Right?
Absolutely, yeah, man with a movie camera. It is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Documentary.
But you and I got into an argument on whether that's documentary or not.
It is.
Oh no.
You know what? Just to
But
make
it's not
everybody
No, I never disagreed with you guys. I'm with you.
Just to
I've,
make-
seen,
No,
I've seen 10 documentaries
to make
better
the
than this
audience
one, you know?
suffer, and then just to help out the kids in cons class, we should just do Man with a Movie Camera.
I
Like,
know, right? Is it? Huh?
yeah.
I didn't see Man with a Movie Camera in film school.
I did.
I saw it on my own. Con didn't show it. Con showed it. Con didn't show it.
Yeah.
Somebody showed it.
Con
Yeah.
showed it, and in fact, it was.
I feel like maybe I saw it in the Avant Mieres class. Just
Oh no,
as a
it was
thing.
my midterm.
Oh really?
Yeah, my midterm.
Wow.
We had to watch it and then write an essay about it.
Even Avant Mieres,
It wasn't
Nanook of the
the-
North. You know,
Oh, yeah,
Nanook of
yeah.
the North was a great thing that we saw in film school.
Jeez, I forgot about that one.
I like Nanook of the North.
I have the book.
For me, Nanook of the North is the documentary version of like the Apu trilogy. You know, this pure
Yeah.
thing. You know, this
Oh,
pure
but that's
depiction
also
of
a weird
life.
thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
like there's so much we can say, but
7.
Seven.
7.
Castro.
Oh,
Well,
listen,
he might have had more to say about it. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I'm
Relax.
sorry.
That's because I think.
I've
Yeah, I know.
I have been a dick these past couple of podcasts. I'm sorry. I'll be
No,
nice.
you also have to run to work. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What do you mean?
No,
you had
no,
something
no,
to
no.
say.
I didn't have anything more. It's fine.
Go,
Please.
You're wasting more
My
time
bad,
by.
no,
by
yeah.
I'll
Like-
go for it, Custom.
Well,
Go.
just so quick, like, what did you like? What did you like about it?
You said it's not quite as palatable as I say it is.
No, it's not.
But what else? That's all you have
Like
to say about
for
it.
me, no. So like this documentary in general, like you know how in every department in film, at least like DP, editor, director, there's always those 10 films or 10 docs, 10
Yeah.
books that you need to read. I think this one is on that list, but I don't think it's on like a list that
For
people.
filmmakers, yeah, that's a good point. I'll agree with you there.
And I do have to say, like, for example, if I were to show this to my parents, they'd walk away like halfway through bored because they don't. Yeah, it's a good doc for us,
fair.
and we love it, but
No,
I think it's very hard to care for it if you're not interested in the subject matter,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's fair.
or at least have some sort of interest in it.
That's interesting too.
It would be hard for somebody that's just not interested,
Yeah,
caring about 4K.
Yeah.
You pixels.
Resolution.
Oh yeah, because even the whole thing from the jump from like, oh, this was standard definition of like filming to
4K.
HD to 4K,
Even telling you,
and then
like,
they were
the
like, oh, and
numbers,
then this
one
is
way.
almost 2K, and like for
science, the
us,
science mind.
yeah, we're like, whoa,
wow.
And then even like hearing that like 4K came out in like 2000, like what 3 or 5. I was like, oh man, and here we all are freaking out now about like cameras that we buy that like this can shoot 4K. I remember when the Blackmagic 4K came out, it was like a easy to access 4K cinema camera.
Yeah, for sure.
Are we doing a rating for like a film and not a doc? or-
No, just the film, not as a doc. So we just said.
Oh, I thought we were
Pay
doing two
attention.
separate.
No, it's
Now we
one
just took
rating.
it off, yeah.
It's
'Cause
one
not
rating.
really cinematic type of.
No, but it does have some importance though for, because it is a learning thing. Like as a normal film, I'd give it like an 8.5.
8.5.
I would have thought you would have gone the opposite route. Like
No.
your documentary rating would have been higher
Higher.
than your film rating.
No, because when it comes to like again the documentary thing, I think it could have been told a little bit better to appeal to the more mass audience.
Yeah,
But the importance of it, I think, is very high, especially for people in this world.
that's fair.
But that also comes into the idea that like every documentary should make you look at whatever subject matter it is, and that should be the most important thing after finishing that.
Yeah.
Because I remember like watching what is it called, like Free Solo, and then feeling like
Googling everything
No.
about the.
Yeah.
I was on my edge the whole time. Just
No,
going,
yeah,
this
everybody
guy-
went through that phase where then they all were like super into like free solo and rock climbing. Like this is amazing. But it's like it takes you to a world that you never knew about, and then makes you really love or care or hate it. Like at the very end.
Sure. I haven't seen it, so I didn't fall into the free solo craze.
Well,
Yeah,
now's your chance.
Castro, your rating.
Look, man, I like it for me, because the question asked, right? Film versus digital. And I've never understood. It answers a couple of questions that I thought I was scared of, like to ask, because I never got with film.
You've seen it before. You've seen it. It was your first time watching
Yeah,
it?
this is my first time.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the ones where like the Star Wars one that Llama showed us and stuff like that. But I've never seen this one.
right.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those that it asks the question and it kind of like, okay, I understand why these guys like to buy film, but I don't understand how you're buying DVDs instead of VHS.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. That's a very interesting way to
Because,
put
there was
it.
a whole section where they're like, how are we going to, well, towards the end, like, how are we going to archive all these?
Or it
That-
talks
that
about
to
how
me-
they would have to put a reader in.
Yeah, that's to me a big nail on the head. Where we were talking about like just like saying the doc film, you just shine a light through it and it still works.
Exactly.
You know?
That whole thing at the very end that they're like, the only true way to preserve like your films now, ironically, is to still do them on film. So you can make them digitally, but until you put it on film,
To preserve, you make a film print and preserve that because there's no other way to genuinely
that's-
secure a thing.
And that's why you're a film junkie, like, you would rather...
That's part of it. That's a huge part of it. I mean, that restoration. I'll get into my kind of thoughts about
Okay,
all
see,
of that.
With
But
me, it answered the question was like, okay, now I see where you're coming from, but I'm still with the whole digital trend. Like, it was obvious that it was going to become this thing. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll get to this.
it was obvious to our generation.
I'm the guy that likes it as high as 6K. I like it. I know you guys hate the whole motion, the 120 hertz.
Oh, God, you're one of those?
Yes.
120 frames.
Let's get into it.
You like the soap opera effect?
Okay.
What's wrong with you?
Ask me this 20
Who
years
hurt
from now.
you?
Wait,
Ask
I
me
thought
this
that
20
was-
years from now.
Yeah.
I thought that was 30 frames.
Yeah, you see, I'm not. I
yeah.
turned that mode off on my TV, you know?
No.
That's the
yeah,
first thing I did.
Let me get to it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it from an actor's perspective. From an
Wow.
actor's perspective, I learned how like film was only 10 minutes and you had to do voodoo. Like, oh my God, you have to
the
wait for the
whole
dailies.
Downey.
So you're not
story?
on Downey's side. Downey was like, I can't go to my trailer to get my shit together. He'd
Yeah.
He'd pee in jars.
Exactly.
You're not on that side?
No, I'm in that side.
Oh, you are the camp
Yeah,
that
he
like,
likes
oh,
the
I
digital.
need
He
my-
likes, yeah, like, you guys
No.
can cut.
No.
No.
It's
Oh,
because
no, yeah. The
He
whole thing
hates
was,
it.
yeah, he hates
Yeah.
it because they had to like.
it's because like so that way everybody can know. Downey on the set of Seven.
No, Zodiac.
Zodiac. What happened is that they were shooting it digitally, and before, like like when the magazine ran out, they'd have to reload it and re-put.
There was
the
a
film
natural
in and
break
all
in
that.
the action.
Yeah, they had to stop, so that gave actors time to everybody time to pause, like relax and all that, and then go and do another 10-minute take,
Oh, yeah,
then
that's right,
pause
that's
and all
what I
that.
saw yesterday.
And then Downey was like, "I can't work like this. Like when you do digital, you never stop. You
I'm
just
on my
roll,
feet 14
roll,
hours
roll.
a day. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
But
not
then who
chill.
was the other actor? Was like sometimes.
Malkovich. John Malkovich.
Oh yeah, I resonate so much with Malkovich.
Malkovich was like, come from the theater. There's that momentum
just waiting.
problem.
Yeah.
Can we go?
Can we just go?
Yeah.
I'm from that.
You're
my
from
friend.
the Malkovich camp.
Yes.
No,
Wow.
it's 'cause
That's
down-
why with the digital, they're like, yo, just keep rolling, keep rolling.
Downey would like pee in jars and then leave it there like, see, I couldn't get a break. Now you get pee.
While we're on the topic, I just applied this to the film that we just did, which we never done before. We had never really, on digital, we had never done the dailies thing.
Oh, yeah.
We never turned around and did dailies. At least not to the extent that we did it this time. And I'm on the Scorsese camp, naturally, of like,
But isn't
I think you need to see, even if you're shooting digital, I still think you need to see dailies separately.
But it's not
another day.
dailies anymore, right?
Well, they called them immediately on the doc.
I like
But,
that.
yeah.
I like that. Keanu.
but what I think...
Spontaneously, that's not going to work. Now, Lee's?
Did we workshop it? No, but
See, that's what-
Scorsese says, like, he's saying, like, I still think you need you're so focused in the tent or whatever you're doing, like, on set, that you watching dailies is almost like, you need to separate yourself from it. And I'm of that camp. You need to, like, shoot it, forget about it, move on to the next thing,
Oh
and
my
then
God.
tomorrow come back
That
around
is-
and how we
Oh,
feel.
dude,
old
that's so
school.
much faith
That's
you
so
need to
old
have in
school.
your DP.
Yeah,
That's
way,
why I
though.
like this whole. They went into the whole thing about the actors that with digital now you could like correct things on screen,
Oh, yeah.
which could be a bad thing.
Like-
Never say that's a bad thing, but you could see your performance and kind
You
of
know what's funny is
adjust.
we talked about the DI for that, and we just talked about Gangs in New York on
Why
this
wouldn't
podcast.
you want that? You know what I mean?
And the
Oh.
DP, I think it was Michael Chapman still. Yeah, Michael Chapman was like, they offered me a DI suite for Gangs in New York, where I could go in there and like, oh brother, where art thou was the first DI ever, a digital coloring. And they offered me a DI, and he was like, I didn't take it because we built the sets. I could manipulate anything I wanted
On Gangs in New York? Yeah.
on the set. I didn't have to wait till post and maybe this and maybe that. Whereas somebody like Roger Deakins and Oh Brother Where Art Thou was like, we'll shoot the trees green and we'll fix it in post. Like we'll just color it in post because we can now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're right. It opens up the world. But as a filmmaker, like me not getting it on set makes me fucking crazy, dude. Like,
No,
Well,
for
that's
sure.
how
but
we're
then-
still having that argument
hold on,
about the
hold on.
whole.
But then you're just contradicting yourself because you're
How?
in the mind frame of I just gotta step back and wait for it. I'll see him tomorrow.
No. That's viewing it to be able to make your decisions on like the select take, but to actually manipulate whatever you can to get it on the take.
Right there.
To get it on the take.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So like this is part of like set building, lighting, etc. Like you make your adjustments before you roll camera,
Yeah.
bro. And if you need it, that's why you take 10 takes if you need 10
Like
takes.
me, I'm a big fan of like when we're filming and all that. If I can put gels, if I can put color in the environment, then to me that's perfect. I don't like that idea, kind of like you,
The DI.
where then later on somebody else needs to come in and you're hoping that everything kind of just adjusts itself in the color.
Because
It's
to
like-
me, and this
Well,
my
50-50 on
opinion
that.
is
I'll 50-50 on
my opinion might change as a storyteller later.
it will
Yeah.
do it.
As
go for
of now, just try it out. As a storyteller, I don't want my film to feel like a completely different film in post. It is another rewrite, but it's not.
Well, I'm with you on that. Like, yeah.
Know what I'm saying?
Don't fix it in post. Like, don't worry. Try to have it all there. Yeah.
So that's kind of my perspective on that front. Like, I don't want to feel like I know what we got on set. I've been dreaming about this film for years. I want to get this thing done the way I see it in my head, and then get to the DI and be like, that blue sky, I want it purple now. Like, well, that just changed your whole narrative of this. You know what I mean? It's a weird kind of thing that I don't want to encounter as a storyteller. I'd rather like have rehearsals, do 20 takes, and in those 20 takes, hey, Dalal, can we adjust the light there? Let's put some more blue here. Let's do this. That.
I think
I'd rather do that on set.
there's-
And then
me
dailies
too.
the next day be like,
It's a happy
performances,
marriage.
I can see, yeah.
It's a happy marriage because now we're at a point where, like again, like you mentioned immediacy. I forgot who was. I think it was Fincher that said that if he looks on the scene and then sees in the background like, oh, it's a little dark, and then the like camera
was
guy
Lucas.
says,
That was Lucas.
Oh, is
No.
Lucas?
That was David.
No, it was George Lucas where he
That
was
was
like,
Lucas, where he's like, I think we need more
we need
backlight.
more backlight. We need more backlight.
Yeah,
It
and
was
then
George Lucas. And like
I thought
the
it was-
DP was like, don't worry about it. It's going to
Yeah.
be on dailies
That
tomorrow.
was David Fincher.
No.
No,
No,
it's
that
because
was
Fincher.
Lucas.
No, Fincher was the one who said, "What the fuck," right?
Yeah.
Because he was saying that you'll still have moments where you're like, "Wow, I can't believe we got that," but then later on, it's like,
What
the fuck is that? Yeah, like, what is
No,
that?
but what he's
I
saying
can't-
is
I
like
can't.
Lucas, like both of them are alluding to the same thing. They would hate the betrayal of dailies.
Exactly.
They would hate the betrayal. They would go around, talk to their DP, and the DP was the wizard. It was in his
Yeah,
head. And then like Rodriguez says a great thing. He's like, oh, great. It's in his head. But I'm the one operating the camera. I'm the one picking the lenses and I'm judging the performances, you know?
That's good.
So like that's kind of the weird camp. But like what you're saying is like Lucas was saying, that corner there, like there's no backlight. We need more backlight or there. And the DP would be like, don't worry, look for it tomorrow. And then I would look at it and be like, you see, needs more backlight. And now I see it live. Let's
add more backlight.
Okay, so you're with me, but I thought you were like the film junkie.
Like again, it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because
Okay, that's what I'm hearing. Okay.
when
even-
done properly, it's not just voodoo in this for the sake of it being voodoo. It's not just like it'll be fine. We'll see. Just because we're shooting on granulated textured film on emulsion, it's gonna be fine. No, you need to think out every logistic possible because number one, you're shooting on something that's relatively permanent.
Okay,
you know?
but why take that risk now? Why do you want to go back to
for
that risk?
the feeling.
Because that's
Yeah,
how much
but-
of a
Castro, you're opening up a whole.
No,
wait, real
I
quick.
want to know.
Real
it's
quick.
the feel. No. It's in very basic terms for me.
Because you're just describing the whole thing that you like, and it's so hard to do it with film.
It's the same reason we do it we do this podcast. Because to me, and I'll tell this story at the end of the podcast. I spoke to somebody, one of our favorite storytellers, and I won't say who, and I can't say who, but we had a whole conversation about
It was Peter
celluloid.
Dinklage.
It was Peter Dinklage about Fruitvale Station. No, we had this whole conversation about. I'll tell it at the end. The reason is, it's paying a reverence to cinema that you better bring your fucking A game. You better bring your.
I like that.
There's no safety net. You better bring your fucking.
But why risk it? Like I know that I like that.
No, because
but why not be
I'll say
100%
this.
sure?
Let me add.
I don't know that to me it's a risk as much as it is a reverence and importance.
Let me add this.
You know what I mean?
I
So-
bring something into this because
Yeah, no. Like they talked about a lot at the end. One of the big problems that happens, I mean, and a lot of people complain about the like democratization of filmmaking in general.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that more people have it doesn't mean, oh wow, more good pictures. It just means more.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing that happens too, is that
Yeah.
now you'll get more bad quality stuff because it's just kind of going in everybody's hands.
Let me
sure,
toss
for
this
sure.
monkey
Yeah, for
wrench
sure.
in there. Chances are, because of the more, chances are, because there's less film shot on film, chances are, every film that was shot on film is a good fucking film.
No, yeah, and I get
You know
that.
what I mean?
I get that.
It's that
but that's how you do it back
discipline.
then, and they were able to get
Yeah.
away with it. You know what I'm saying? Why take the risk now?
Because I mean, now you're seeing that,
Like, it's
I will
awesome that-
agree. I will agree. You can develop a lot of bad habits, especially like for somebody like me who I'm trying to work in cinematography, right? And I'm trying to, really fine tune my craft.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to be lazy. It's so
Yeah.
easy to be lazy,
Honestly,
especially
for
with
sure.
digital. Because I mean, even like
For
right now,
sure,
like us
especially with
recording. Like the podcast, I can kind of just set everything. It looks kind of okay, and then
That's
you
what
just throw it
bugs
on.
me,
And then if it
man.
doesn't work out, let me just
Look.
re-record. But like back then,
Exactly.
it was like, no, you're gonna have 5 people around you,
I
and you're all
get
gonna
that.
make sure that one picture is
Yeah.
absolutely perfect.
And even then, by the way, let me,
Before you
hold
even
on,
hit
let me throw
record.
this in there.
But what if it's not?
Here's the thing.
That's
Here's the
what
thing.
the
That's the
Let me
chance.
throw this
no,
in there.
that's
That's
why
the
you got
beautiful
so many
thing of it.
specialized
Let me
people.
throw this in there. It almost doesn't matter. And that's kind of what they alluded to at the end of it. It's a tool. You end up deciding what you want out of it. It almost doesn't matter. We shot our last film on the FX6. Very happy with the images this fucking camera was producing.
Amazing.
A beautiful
Sony,
picture.
dog. I like Sony. after this one.
Great picture we were getting out of it. We're seeing dailies and we're like, oh, we got what we needed. Great. Boom, boom, boom. And then we get to certain shots where we didn't either think things through, a technical fuck up here or there, whatever. And we're like, the Fincher thing. The fuck is that? And
That
now
was-
we shot on digital, dude. My point with that
Imagine
is,
with film?
my
we
point
would've
that-
had the exact same
yeah,
problem.
it was the exact same problem. The limitation there was time and money. It
Yeah,
wasn't
man.
the
Time
technical
is always
tools.
the fucking-
We had 2 12-hour days before the actors had to ship off to something else. And within those 2 12-hour days, we couldn't go over 12 hours because then we'd get penalties for SAG or whatever.
Yeah.
So even if we had an Ari, we learned it was Ari. It's Ari.
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 Ari, not
Yeah, it's
Ari?
Ari. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Ari, not
because
Ari.
even people like who work at
At
Airy are like, oh,
Airy Flex.
the
So
Airy
like,
Alexa.
if you have on the digital scale, in my opinion, my holy grail of digital is the Airy Alexa.
An Alexa.
Any Airy Alexa, a Mini, an LF, any Alexa. I want to shoot an Alexa. That to me is the holy grail. Or I shoot on a Panasonic 35mm camera from the 70s. No matter what it is, if you don't have the time and money,
But if I'm a producer or executive producer, I'm gonna be like, yo, dude, I just
Shoot digital.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
man.
you know what?
art and commerce, right?
No, go for it.
It's the last kind of big thing I'll say for the podcast is digital. Like this film really highlights how much digital has like improved
Absolutely
our own personal journeys. But then it also shows the shortcomings, and that's what I do love about the documentary and what it highlights, because things like a 48-hour film challenge you could have never done with film. You can't you can't go and like dude. And then like for actors, I mean, more practice would have had to been done on the stage, where now people like you and everybody else in the film scene can practice on digital and actually see your performance.
But I think,
how am I working? How's it going? Like stuff like that.
So I guess I'm being a little biased.
One of the things that it highlighted for actors was there's this whole conversation that I really appreciated, where people say, when you walk onto a Scorsese set, it's just an unspoken thing. You walk on like, better have my fucking top game up, right?
I think I see.
When it came to film, you better bring your fucking A game when the projectors were when the film cameras whirling.
What do they call it? The stock is money. Right?
The money.
Rolling.
You hear the money rolling.
You
take it more seriously.
No, for sure.
You take it more seriously.
For sure.
Greta Gerwig was the one saying that, and stuff like that. But did you end up giving him a rating?
Did I?
I don't think you did.
I think you get a rating to end the
it was
podcast.
like a 7.5, and overall, I'll give it an 8. It was good. It could have been better.
Okay.
What was your final rating?
My final rating, I think I'm at an 8. I think I'm at an 8. I think it's super crucial.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. I think
informative.
I think every filmmaker and film lover kind of needs to see this, regardless.
Yeah, it highlights a big point in cinema's history, because they talk about it like over the past like 120 years. Celluloid has been perfected. We've hit the ceiling of that. Like, there's nowhere else for that to go as far as us being able to develop better.
No.
They're not making new cameras. And
in fact,
They tried, right? They tried with
and then digital, digital
Fincher was
is
pissed. Like, you spent how many millions making a camera with tape?
Digital is now the next kind of transition over.
Yeah.
So with that, like, it's like there's a whole world of cinema history to come, but we're at that cusp.
I'm on both camps. I think I'm like Scorsese, man. I think it's just another tool. Whatever tool you require to make the current picture.
Oh yeah, for sure, I'm with that.
Pick the tools.
How long has hold on, real quick. What about 3D? I do not care for it, and it's been.
But that's
I'm
what
kind
they
of
were
on
talking
Cameron.
about.
I'm kind of on James Cameron's camp on that. Cameron is working very hard. The last thing he would do before
thing on that.
Cameron would his dying thing will be to make 3D happen without glasses. That's his ultimate life goal.
Well,
is
that
to make
would save it.
and to hit the bottom of the ocean again.
To go to the Titanic wreck scene again. James Cameron will make 3D happen in his lifetime without glasses,
But
and
I'm
that
asking,
means the improvement of screens.
Do you guys think it's going to go there?
I do, and let me tell you why. Like,
yes.
you would think
the 70s
you would
with Jaws 3D. Like,
well, you would think
No.
Things like that are very gimmicky. One of the most immersive experiences of film for me of screening a film was last Christmas.
I gave you my heart.
No, last Christmas we screened the new Avatar, The Way of Water, in this 240-degree screen.
Oh shit!
Literally, you have this, and then you have your side panels. I thought that was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I thought that was a new way to see film, and the more immersive. It's kind of like the dome in Vegas now. Like, it's this new thing to like immerse yourself in the storytelling. I think VR is going to take off and be a very big thing very, very soon in film. I think people are going to create films specifically for VR.
Just like
I think
3D
it's going to head that route, man. I think there's going to be new ways to tell stories.
And the only reason that they highlighted that in this documentary is just to say how new digital is and how much potential and possibility there is. Like, the second digital came in, that's when animated graphics coming into film was like realized for like Lucas's films and all that kind of stuff. So I think it just shows that there's so much that's bound to happen in the future that we don't know about, and there's also so much that we did learn from our past, and now we need to decide where we want to kind of sit on that line, and then also what are we going to take from the past and what are we going to move forward with.
This will be the last thing I say before I tell my little anecdote before we wrap. I don't think you need to pick a camp. I genuinely think, and it's not just because it's Scorsese. I think you can embrace. If you don't embrace all of it, you're going to fall behind in one way or another.
Yeah,
you need to help the art. Like Rodriguez said, the art needs to push the technology, and the technology needs to push the art. It needs to be a two-way street. So I do think embracing all of it. Embrace all of it. Embrace Right now, a big thing. Have you guys seen on Instagram those? If this film was vertical,
Yeah, that's interesting.
it's interesting, and it's how most people are consuming media right now. So like, I'm not encouraging people to go see a 3-hour picture on your phone. When
You can literally see a full movie on TikTok right now.
right, and I'm not
people do
encouraging
it in
that.
parts, and people will sit there and scroll through it.
And I'm not encouraging that, but I will sit there and watch a 3-minute scene of a film that I love that I had forgotten about, like
In vertical. And
vertical.
I feel like...
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's if you don't embrace all of it and then use it.
Exactly, like the 120 hertz, right? Yeah.
Hey, I shot in 60 frames on the slow mo thing that was very intentional in this last picture we did. You know, so that's all.
That's all, folks.
I have a quick little story. We got to meet one of our, greatest kind of storytellers. I'm not going to say who. I can't say who, but
Can you say Bob?
you'll
Or
find,
just because
yeah,
you're
Bob.
gonna...
You'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, so Bob.
So we spoke to Bob, and we
Bob.
had this whole conversation about film.
Bob.
And because I asked, they were shooting on a film camera, and I was like, oh, man, you have no idea what that means to us to get to the holy grail of film, And somebody else asked him, like, will you ever shoot digital? And he was like, no, never. It's like, why? And you were gonna expect this answer, right? You were gonna expect this answer of like, we need to preserve cinema. No, and he's very much that guy. He was like, it took me 20 years to learn this fucking camera. You want me to go learn a whole new system and stuff
like Bob now.
Bob's
But
great.
Bob told you, we got this whole conversation about shooting on 35, shooting on 65 and blow it up to 70 millimeter.
Yeah.
And he had only shot one film on 65, 70 millimeter. That's a great picture. And he says, I'd love to do it again, but it's a whole monster shooting on 65 as opposed to 35. And I said, I tell my friends that the most enjoyable experience, the most amazing experience I've ever had in screening a film theatrically is The Hateful Eight, when I got to see it projected in 70 millimeter film. And he's like, you got to see that in El Paso? They have a 70 millimeter. And I was like, no, I had to drive to Dallas for this. And he's like, wow, that's that's 10 hours each way. You want to go do that? I was like, yes, because it has to mean that much even on the consumption level. Right? And to me, it's something, again, that's going away. This Tarantino thing, like the experience of it was called the Roadshow experience, where you're watching a 3.5-hour cut of The Hateful Eight in 70 millimeter with an intermission. It's like traveling back in time for me, It's this great experience that we don't have anymore.
Step Brothers type of reference.
Yeah, it's like jerking off in a time machine. But yeah,
That's all
so
I can say.
yeah, whatever. I just made a jerk off film. That's what I think. I think we're fine.
That's what it is.
So yeah. Anyways, my point with that is that whole conversation led to an article being written about that topic. Bob mentioned that conversation in the article in the very famous outlet. And I bring it up because it has to, like, those filmmakers are still looking out for the people that give a shit.
Oh yeah.
They're looking out for the people who they made the film for almost.
Yeah.
And
like,
I shot this in 70, I'm still shooting on film. It's for people like you almost, and I don't know, it's still something for me to preserve to a certain extent.
No, and I'll say on the other camp, if you think that we're already kind of at the end, we've learned all we need to learn about, look at things like The Mandalorian and digital productions. Yeah. That is now a new way that people are going to be thinking about film.
Thing, right? The screen thing.
And there's so much that we can talk about all that. I mean, you talked to somebody recently who's like kind of like diving into the whole graphics world, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so
like mocap and stuff.
There's so much to be explored with digital, and there's so much to be appreciated about both.
I have a question for you, because you're both you on the cinematography, and I think I kind of know your answer.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Why are people still using aspect ratio 4:3?
That's true. I'm 69.
Why is The Lighthouse arguably one of the best films we've reviewed on this podcast? Why was it shot on 4:3? Because it's just another tool. It has nothing to do that. This was the supreme aspect ratio of the 1950s and 60s. It has nothing to do with that.
Okay, I'll give you that. That's pretty
We
good.
adapted this thing. We used it to the top of its ability. We now have widescreen. But this story would serve as a photograph because every frame of this, you know what I'm saying? It's a tool. It's a tool to bring back in. And I think that's what film should be.
Yeah.
Ultimately. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this documentary.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think everybody should watch it. If you're a filmmaker, especially if you're a filmmaker, go watch. It's free on YouTube.
I needed to watch
Go YouTube it. It's free.
Side
Side by
by side.
side. So we're all at 8
But
to 7.
YouTube it on your TV.
Go
YouTube it on your phone.
Yes, please. Absolutely. Greta Gerwig, we're just talking about how Greta Gerwig was just an actress in this documentary, literally actress. And now she's arguably the biggest director money-wise in the world. New Barbie, which we were talking about. I think they shot it on film. Rodrigo Prieto was the DP. She probably shot that thing on film too,
Oh, absolutely.
Anyways, thank Thank you for tuning into the WatchTower Film Podcast this episode. Stay tuned for next week. I don't think we know what we're covering. It's one of you two.
Wait. I can maybe give you an answer.
I think it's the law.
Are you going to do the taxidermy one?
Yeah.
Or are you going to do
Stuffed is next week.
stuffed?
I think it's called Stuffed, right?
Yeah.
Did we
But
go
are you
with
going to
that?
do stuffed? Or are you going to... You were talking about doing another one.
Dude, that's an interesting one.
No, I want to do Stuffed.
Okay, do stuffed.
Yeah. Stuffed.
Stay tuned for stuff.
Yeah.
Seriously,
night,
thank you. Check out the documentary. Stay tuned. Good night.
Love you guys.
No, get your ass out of here.
Yeah.
All right.
Go to work. Run.
Run.